and welcome to Faith, Final Drafts, and the F Word. I'm Darla Phillips, a host and producer, along with fellow screenwriters Sarah Hopkins and Rebecca Williams Spindler. Join us as we share our experiences navigating careers in film and television. Add in the twist that we're women of faith, entering into life's second season, and you might find yourself mumbling under your breath. Good luck with that, ladies. Follow along for some guaranteed laughs and some valuable screenwriting and industry perspective. Anyone with a dream will enjoy this podcast video. Hope you join in. And remember, we gotta enjoy the journey.
Well, welcome back to Faith, Final Drafts, and the F Word. Today's topic is talking a little bit about balancing the writing life with real life. And so we are here in Mission Viejo. Am I saying that correctly?
Yes.
Mission Viejo, California, at a baseball diamond. If you are a parent that is a writer, more than likely you have sat on bleachers like this and probably were thinking about writing, or maybe even possibly had your laptop. I have been at many soccer fields in my front seat with my laptop. So we thought that this would be a really fun way to just kind of discuss the topic and just kind of really dive into how we think that there's really balance, and that might be a myth. So we're going to start off our conversation how we always do with our 3 F's for everybody. So Becky, I will start with you. What are your 3 F's this week?
Okay, so for my faith, I actually had to lean into my faith pretty closely like 3 or 4 days ago when it came time for me to pack for this trip, right? Mm-hmm. So, coming from Madison, Wisconsin, getting on a plane and coming out here to Santa Ana, California, it took me a minute to just kind of take a breath and do what I needed to do to wrap things up at home so I could pivot from home life to writing life and fly out here and enjoy each other. Mm-hmm. And so that's my faith thing. I prayed, and I always pray for safe flights because I'm a chicken on the 737.
She did great. She was a pro.
You can ask my husband. So that's my faith. The final draft is I'm starting a contest today. It's a timed thing. Got 8 days to write 12 pages. So I'll be diving into that. And then the frustration, I guess I don't have too much of a frustration because my brain feels free being here.
Yes!
That's interesting. Yeah. That's neat.
That's awesome. Perfect. Darla, hi.
Okay, so my faith. So we've been saying little prayers before we start our podcast. And I was just amazed, like the past, our last podcast, and today we said a prayer, and I just really felt like it helped. It helped me be calm. It helped. I feel like things flowed so smoothly, and I was amazed that we're all women of faith, but sometimes we can get a little, I don't know, we can still be a little
squirrely.
Yeah, which is the girl talk. Which is the girl talk. But I'm like, but I still feel like, you know what? The Lord hears us when we pray, and I really felt that all throughout this podcast video, this whole journey we're taking. So that was my little faith thing, is that the Lord hears us and He loves us. And my final drafts would be that I yesterday got some good notes back on an outline that I am working on for a feature. So it's positive, and I feel like, okay, I'm gonna maybe start writing a feature soon, so that was good feedback yesterday. And it's funny, I feel so much like Becky, I don't feel like I have a frustration today. I don't know if it's because we're, I don't know, we're having a great week here in Mission Viejo. We were accomplishing our goals. So yeah, I'm feeling good. I don't feel a frustration right now. Tomorrow, check back in 2 hours.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I know, I was just going to say 2 hours from now, we're going to be like, different. Yeah, that's awesome. So my faith thing, my youngest daughter's name is Faith. And we just found out literally the day before I was coming here that she got into a pretty prestigious college that she had applied for. And so it was super exciting. She wasn't supposed to technically find out until I was here, and I was having all the mommy guilt of like, I'm not going to be there when she finds out, like, you know, however that's going to work. And it was really cool to see how God just worked that all out, that we were all there together as a family when she found out. And so we're very excited for her. And that kind of played into, you know, we were getting ready to come on this trip. I'm trying to finish this script, and I had these deadlines, and we decided to go out and have, you know, celebration pancakes in the morning when I could have been writing. And you know what? That's totally fine. So yeah, I feel like, you know, especially talking about a topic like balancing writing life and work life and real life and family and all those kinds of things, I feel like you just really need to lean into what is the moment that you need to be in right now. And that's one of the things that I think it's going to be really helpful, hopefully, for people coming into this journey to understand, you know, at least where we're at in our season of life of what that really looks like for us. So to start off, I guess I feel like having your work and your writing life perfectly balanced with your personal real life is a myth. I feel like I've never had that feeling where I'm like, everything is perfect. Everything is perfectly balanced in my life, my writing, my people. I don't feel like anything that takes a lot of effort and creativity, meaning, you know, your writing life, as well as the effort that goes into your real life family, means that you're 100% engaged in that. And I feel like it's hard to balance that. And I feel like, you know, as you go through different seasons of your life and you evolve and you grow, you figure out what works for you and what definitely doesn't work for you. And then the kicker always is something's going to change, or what used to work for you doesn't work for you anymore, life circumstances or whatever. So I thought it'd be really helpful just for each of us, because we're all a little bit in different areas of our writing and real life. So before we give you kind of tips and tricks and choices and things that have worked for us and what haven't worked for us, we thought it'd be helpful to just kind of understand where we're at personally, just so it might help you kind of pull some nuggets of things that might work for you or not. So Becky, why don't you give us kind of a little bit about, you know, where you're at in your writing life and where you're at in your real life, and then maybe what it was with that tipping point into suddenly the writing life became something that you were really going to be investing some time into. So if we can start with you.
Sure. Okay. So my life today, I am an empty nester. I've been married 28 years to my high school sweetheart. So it's been an awesome journey to see my daughter grow and leave the nest and whatnot. But it's also kind of rekindled my marriage too. So I was joking with these guys at breakfast that, you know, I'm an empty nester, but it's also Studio 54 on the side over here. You know, shout out to my wonderful husband, Sean. So yeah, it's great to rekindle our relationship. But then again, it's just the two of us at home because he works from home. You know, thank you, COVID. So we both have our home offices, and you know, we kind of creep into each other's space once in a while, and there is no office hours per se, right? It's always going on, and so that's really hard. When do you step away from the laptop and start dinner? Because the next thing you know, you look up and it's 7:15 and you haven't started dinner yet, and there's that wife guilt, mother guilt. Geez, man, I should be putting something on the stove right about now. And thankfully, I have a husband who does step up. If I'm not cooking something, then he'll start pulling out leftovers. And begrudgingly, it's ham sandwiches for the third day in a row, you know?
Yeah. Or sweet potato cakes. Sorry.
Yeah,
My
you put Tombstone frozen pizza.
Yeah, right. My husband's like, I'm going to Marco's.
But so that's my home life. In my writing life, I'm still kind of you know, doing the screenplays, obviously, but then I've found employment through an agency. Thank you, Story Terrace. So I'm one of their freelance premium writers, and I get contracted to help people. I ghostwrite. So and that's really rewarding work for that. But then again, I got to keep my, you know, my timetable planner. From this time to this time, I'm going to do paid work. From this time to this time, I'm going to do my joy work. And from this time, I'm going to clean the bathroom and fold some underwear.
Yeah.
You know,
Underwear's overrated.
And maybe grocery shop because all we have left is milk and celery in the refrigerator. So it's hard. It's hard still to balance, even though I don't have any kiddos at home.
Sure. What was it in your writing life that it became a stressor into your real life? Like, what was your tipping point where suddenly, you know, you weren't just dabbling in writing anymore and it became a thing for you?
So I broke into to the writing world by having short stories published. And so I had a publisher that I had been working with. And my daughter actually helped with the tipping point, I guess. She decided that she wanted to, flourish in her writing. And she was 10 going on 11 at a time. And she started writing her own novel the summer between her elementary school and middle school. And I took a look at it at the end of the summer. And meanwhile, I was working like 50-hour weeks. I was a salaried employee. I was a full-time recruiter for one of the top 10 hospitals in the country. Loved my job, loved my team, loved my manager.
Love the paycheck.
Love the paycheck. Love the benefits. Yeah. Health insurance. Yay. So all that good stuff. And I took a look at her little story and I thought it was cute. And, I cleaned it up a little bit. It was about 17,000 words. I sent it to the publisher just for fun. Said, hey, take a look at this. What do you think? And the publisher gets back to me and says, oh my gosh, you guys wrote this together. I totally see this being a series. I'm going to send you a contract, 3 books in 3 years.
It's amazing.
Nice, yeah.
So what used to be a total side hobby, right? 1 story a year kind of thing, all of a sudden was this huge opportunity. And so I just kind of told myself and my husband, and all of our extended family, parents on both sides are like, this is kind of a big deal. And to my 11-year-old, it's okay, I'm just writing stories. And she didn't see it as a big deal, but I think deep down she did. Anyway, I said that was my tipping point. I could not work 50 hours a week anymore and crank out 3 books in 3 years. And this was a sign from someone saying, here again, I'm placing something in front of you. What are you going to do with it? And I had that talk with my manager and I cried because I loved her. I loved my job. And I said, this is an opportunity of a lifetime. And thank God for her. And she pretty much said, yes, it is. I'm going to be sad to lose you, because I told her I could not keep working full time. And she told me, I don't have anything part-time here for you. So I was back out there looking for my own job when I was helping people get placed with jobs. But I made that decision.
That was
11 years ago.
Point. Yeah.
11 years ago.
Wow.
That's
How's it going, guys?
Hi.
So Darla, tell me a little bit about just kind of where you're at in your lifestyle and in your writing life, and how does that all fit together for you?
Okay. So, I mean, in an earlier podcast, I talked a little bit about this, but I had always dabbled in writing a little bit. After my 4th child was born, life got crazy and I put it on the back burner until I drove that kid to college. And then it all came back to life again on my drive home from where was I? Wisconsin to Utah, and Utah back. So for me, that was the kind of tipping point. I felt like I was free to pursue my dreams finally. But there was also another catalyst. I don't know that I would have. There was kind of an incident that happened in my family's life that kind of spurred me and motivated me to want to write a screenplay. Because before that, I'd always been kind of like, oh, I'm going to be an author and write novels. But that kind of spurred me to dabble in screenwriting. And so the fact that my empty nester, this incident had happened that was making me want to tell a story. I felt compelled to tell a story cinematically. That happened. And the fact that I didn't live, like I've mentioned before, I have a lot of grandkids. They're all in the West, in Arizona. I live in Wisconsin right now. Having, as much as I love to be with my family, they're the most important thing to me, having that kind of a separation gave me the freedom and the time to really free my mind to pursue the screenwriting. And so, I don't know, a lot of things fell into place for me to pursue my dreams. And I don't know that I would be doing this if certain things hadn't kind of happened in my life. So, so me right now, I don't know. I feel like I'm living the dream, doing what I always wanted to do. And I don't know. Did that
She's
answer your
also a
question?
vagabond.
Yes. Oh, I do. If you could see the back of my car right now, I might take a picture and post it at the end of this podcast. But I do. I travel a lot. I go from Wisconsin to Utah. Not Utah so much anymore, but Arizona and California. And
I think one of the things you do really well in your empty nesting, as it were, is you're very mindful of being present in what you are feeling called to be doing at that point in time, whether that's taking time to be with your grandchildren or taking time to, hole up and just go write. So I think it's really interesting, and it's been really cool watching you do that. I can't wait to do that.
Well, and being like, for me, I seriously, relationships are the absolute most important thing for me. So when I would have a very hard time, if I lived right with my grandkids, I would have a very hard time sacrificing the time with them to write. So I have this kind of forced separation that gives me the opportunity to pursue that, and 100% when I have the time. And so yeah, I don't know if that answered your question or not, but
I think that's great. So for you, the tipping point really was just a life season happening.
Yes, and I mean,
it wasn't like a certain project or something like that.
It was both because it was that, the incident that happened that, that kind of gave me, compelled me to write. I wanted to write that story. And so that gave me, the drive to sit down and write and we talked about this, like, when you don't even know if there's a payoff in the end, but I'm like, I'm writing the story. Right. But yeah, so the balance for me is very different. I don't have the kids at home anymore. I'm an empty nester, but I still have a big, huge family. And I get pulled a lot of ways.
You do. And you volunteer and you spend and you're very active in your church.
Yes. And I had a career in real estate, and I've done, when I was raising my kids, I definitely did other things that kept me from screenwriting, kept me from writing. So I don't know. I'm grateful for the things that have happened in my life that have put me in this place where I can be with you girls and I can, pursue this writing dream. But balancing is different, say for Sarah, because Sarah still got a girl at home.
I do. So my husband is going to be retiring in June. And then I have a high school senior who will be graduating in May. And I also have a college student that will also be graduating in May. So my oldest daughter is getting her welding degree, and my youngest is graduating from high school, all literally within like 3 weeks of each other. So this year is kind of like our big, woo, everything's happening here. And so I've had to be very mindful about how, like, really front loading this time that I have right now, where everybody's still getting all their stuff taken care of, where I can really focus in on writing stuff. So for me, because my time has been so structured because of having a family at home and crazy hours with my husband at the hospital, like I have to structure my day because his is not. And my day was always structured around my children. And now I'm at that place where obviously they don't need me. They're finishing up their stuff. I'm so stinking proud of them. And, when you're coming into that season of life where it's like you have all of these identity crises. Oh, yeah. Crises. All those words.
It's so good.
And so for me, like earlier on when we first started doing this, I was really in this identity crisis. I was like, holy smokes, like my husband's just deciding to do the retirement thing, and I got a kid that's fully not needing me at all. I'm going to be moving off, and empty nest is coming, and I was like, oh, pump the brakes. I don't know if I'm ready for this. But it's really been cool for me just in a very short period of time to be like, I need to be very mindful and very much like I need to plan what this is going to look like, knowing that I'm going to have all this hope without expectation. And the hope without expectation thing, I feel like, is something all writers, when you're coming into this world, like you have all the hope in the world that screenplay, that short story, that novel, that whatever thing you're working on is going to be the thing that gets you to the next level. And, we've talked about this a lot. This is a business of no's and rejection. And so trying to do real life while balancing this dream is incredibly difficult.
I wanted to add something. Oh, absolutely. After you. Go first.
So it just popped into my head. When I became an empty nester, my daughter knew I was going to kind of, jump into my writing pretty aggressively. And somewhere down the line, she actually said to me, I'm glad you're doing that, Mom, because then I'm not worried about you. Because she's been my whole life, right, for 18 years. And then when you have that separation, it made her feel better to know that now I'm diving into something else that I like to do, you know. And so it's helpful for those who are about to be empty nesters, that if you're, you know, if you're into your own groove and you're working on something that you're passionate about, it kind of puts that worry of what are they doing on campus right now a little less, a little less stressful, because you are occupying your mind in another way.
Yeah. So I was thinking about, you know, the balance of life, and there's two things that came to my mind, but one was I love, you know, we've been, all three of us have been married a while, and I love the shift in like me, my husband, and my, like, the kind of the responsibilities that we have taken in the household. Like, I feel like, yeah, it used to be, you know, I was the cook, I cleaned, I grocery shopped, and I love right now, because my husband wants this dream for me as much as I want it for myself. When I'm writing, I love that. Well, I will say I had to teach him how to do 5 meals, but I love that he rocks those meals. He enjoys shopping for them. He cooks for me. Like when I'm in the, like last year when I was trying to crank out, you know, one of my features, I tried to get it done in 6 weeks. He was the second draft. He was right there. Like, he was cooking for me. He was cleaning. He was shopping, and I loved that shift in balance that comes from long-term relationships. And the other thing I was thinking of, balance wise, and I think for me it's so important, like you said, you set apart your time to write, but for me it's so important that I balance that with something else meaningful, like whether it's service, doing something for somebody else. I don't know, to me it's so, I mean, that is the balance, like figuring it out. Like for me, if I were just to write and do nothing else, I would probably lose inspiration for writing. The whole service and being involved and keeping my relationships going, that helps fuel me to then not feel guilty when and inspire me.
That's a great segue into kind of the next topic, talking about the guilt that sometimes you feel when you're like, I cannot have a meaningful conversation or interaction with my family and be writing a physical script on my computer at the same time. Like, we can't do that, right? That's impossible. And so sometimes we have this feeling where we feel guilty about the other thing while we're doing the thing. So if I'm writing a script, I'm feeling guilty about not spending time for my family, or vice versa. And, you know, it's almost like in my brain, and I don't know if that's a mommy thing or whatever, but I'm like, okay, pump the brakes. What is happening right now? Do I need to be doing something to be able to fully engage in the thing that I'm doing and not have that guilt and whatever is going on in my head? So what do you guys, and we talked a little bit about this earlier, you know, writing is always not just writing. You're not, like, even if you're not putting words on a page, because you have all of this other life happening around you, like, to engage the writing life means that it's not one or the other. Like, they do overlap, which is probably why it never feels balanced. So that might be something to talk a little bit about right now. Like, how do you get into your writing mode to be able to sit down at the computer?
Well, I think it's never going to be a 50-50, right? Maybe on a blessed day it might be a 50-50, but most days it's a 30-70, or it's a 15-85, or it's a 5 and a 95, right? So don't ever have that expectation that I'm just going to get that 50-50. That doesn't happen. No, it doesn't happen. So, you know, be at peace with whatever nugget of time you can carve out of yourself and out of your day to find your writing time. But we talked about, okay, we have kids in sports, right? And how many times have we spent hours on end in the car driving them to whatever tournament and this and that? And maybe we're blocking out the conversation that's going on with the 14-year-olds in the backseat. Maybe we're absorbing it like a sponge because it's material for later on. So that is your writing mind at work. You're not typing, but man, you're soaking up that conversation, and it's a golden nugget happening in the backseat that's going to come up sooner or later. And I think my daughter's figured that out by now. That most of my family's figured that out by now. That whatever conversation happens, man, it's
You always say that's going into script.
I always say, I say to my grandkids, I'm like, you won't know. You won't recognize yourself, but that's going in. But no, I so agree with that. I feel like I had 18 years of when I when I wasn't writing and I was just dedicating, my time to raising my family, I feel like I had 18 years of imaginary build, like stories building. So I really do feel like when I'm not writing, the stories are building in I always say my gut, because they build my gut first and then they go to my mind. But so I sometimes feel like even though I'm not physically writing, the stories are still growing and getting, what do you call it? I pictured like a rock in a polisher.
Yeah.
Like if the story's
like
just going
that.
like this, like this, like this, and it's in my gut. And then so I feel like a lot of times, I should be maybe paying attention. Just like my sister the other night, she's like, Darla, we've watched a lot of shows since you've been here. And I'm like, oh, I don't remember because my brain was writing my story in my head. But so I do that a lot, but I also do glean from the world around me. So much stuff. So
I'm so new into the writing thing. Like I've only been like technically writing for 5, 6, 7 years or whatever. And it's, to me, I feel like this huge big crunch. I'm like, oh, this is my time. I got to go, like to really lean into that. And so, and my nature is that I'm like, if I'm going to do something, it's like all in, man. Like, and I have to, it was very frustrating that I couldn't do all the things at one time. Because I'm one of those people, like total type A. And you guys are a lot like that too, where it's like, watch me, here's my cape. Like I can do all of the things. And usually at the end of the day, I'm worn out.
Yes.
I've done all of the things for anybody but myself. And like the whole writing thing always felt like this frivolous thing because there was nothing to show something for it. And so like having that tipping point for me of like, being a runner-up at a contest and attaining representation, I was like, the validation of that is what became my stressor. And I'm like, okay, I've been validated in this thing and I really like doing it, but I am also trying to balance all of these other things that are really, really important that I also get validated in. Right. So it can be really, really tricky. And so for me, I feel like I have to be 100% into something. And when I can't be writing, I struggle with that sometimes.
The
so
anxiety.
it's like, it is, because I set way too high of expectations for myself, but I also, like I said earlier, I thrive with structure. So I have to figure out how to structure to for the lack of a better phrase, like structure the balance for where you're at literally just today. Like I'm a list maker.
Yeah, me too. Oh man, I love the list.
That's what I mean.
Live by the list.
If you wake up knowing that you've got a lot of heavy family, home, whatever
Don't
it is,
try to write today.
then just tell yourself today's going to be a 595 day.
Yeah.
I'm literally going to write for 2 seconds on a Post-it note while I'm sitting on the toilet. I don't want to lose this, and I'm bringing the Post-it note into the bathroom. And then the rest of it is, whatever. But, or you could be so excited. Okay, Thursday from 8 to noon. I have carved out Thursday from 8 to noon. It's 8:28 on Thursday morning, and I'm in my groove, and the phone rings, and someone's in the hospital. And you got to walk away from it because that's your family, that's your loved one, that's someone that you know that is calling out to you, and it's part of your faith because God is also nudging you by that phone call by saying someone needs you, you need to step away. And so you do it, and then maybe the whole way to the hospital, but you need to do it.
Yes. Look. Okay. So, do you guys ever have? Sometimes I'll look back and I'm like, how did I get this script accomplished? Like, because you're like, how did this happen? I finished it. I finished the 3rd draft. There's so many times I'm like, how did I ever get here? Because all you feel is that anxiety of like, oh, I'm always interrupted. I'm always like, And so I do look back sometimes. I'm like, whoa, it's a miracle that this piece of whatever is accomplished. But I do that all the time. I'll be like, how did this turn out? I don't know. It's kind of good.
It is.
And we talk about grace a lot.
You gotta give yourself grace, man.
Yeah.
And I have to say that to myself. It's like you point one finger at somebody, and they're 3 are pointing back at you because I'm like, I need to heap that on myself too, because I will be the first one to be like, sleep is overrated. Don't sleep. Just get her done. And that's nothing good will come of that over a long period of time. But I will say, and again, this isn't for everybody, and everybody's not built that way. I get to the point where I'm like, no, I'm doing this.
Yes.
Like, and I will absolutely do whatever it takes to get that done, which is part of the frustration part of like, if I don't get it done, I'm like, oh man, I could have done that if I didn't. But you can't do that to yourself. And you know, again, I'm giving this speech to myself right now because I'm in this huge time crunch right now, like really trying to compress a lot of things into one thing.
It kind of reminded me of something we talked about earlier, because we're all at different stages, right? And we didn't all start out, like when you first started writing, you didn't probably feel as crunched. You talked about how it was once you got your manager, you know, and you have like real deadlines. But I'm wondering, for people who are watching and listening, and we have the lawnmower. Yes.
There it is. There's the lawnmower.
But you can tell we're live right now.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like we kind of touched on this, but when you're first getting in, you're dabbling, and you're not like, you know, you're not going to quit your day job right away, and you're not going to, you know, you want to. But I want to talk. I mean, I want us to talk about it. You're leading this, but you did bring this up earlier,
sure.
So I'm bringing it back up. How did we motivate ourselves before we had the tipping point? The tipping point where we're like, okay, now I am compelled to write. Now, I don't know, how did we all motivate ourselves?
Like for me, it was just the validation of having somebody read your stuff, and I always joke, I'm always like, you know, whenever you send the first draft, it's always like showing like a little bit of your underwear.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're like,
it is, yeah.
I got a little something to show you, but I'm not going to show you. You know?
In front of the class in your underwear. Right?
Yeah, you know, like it's this piece of you, and you don't know if it's good. You're like, oh my God, I'm the worst writer ever. And then somebody goes, no, I like what you did here. And then they give you a note, or they were just like, I could totally relate to that one character. And you're like, oh. So to me, I'm a positive, like I need positive reinforcement. Yeah. So, and you have to find that. Again, you should always get notes from all of the people. Your fan, what is it? Your fans, your family, and then basically somebody that's way outside that doesn't have any emotional attachment to you, that will give it to you straight.
Yeah. The firecracker.
Yeah, there you go.
Family and the firecracker. The firecracker.
The light shine.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. But in a good way.
Yeah, they all light. They all light it.
Propel you forward.
Oh yeah. So I was thinking of like what propelled me before. Well, I did go into that a little bit. You know, I just had a story I felt compelled to tell, and it was a true story. And I don't know that if I had just been writing for fun, I don't know that I would have felt as compelled, because I felt like I had a mission. I had to get the story out to the world, and I may never get out to the world. But that was, you know, my driving force was I wanted to say something. And I felt like I had a voice.
The truth had to come out.
Yeah, the truth had to come.
Yeah, I think that's powerful.
So submission deadlines.
Yes,
that's
good.
my driver.
Yeah.
So if I know, you know, someone puts a call out, we're looking for a short story, send it in by April 25th. Okay.
Yeah.
You know,
that's true.
And that's when I put my cape on. Putting on my cape on.
We're going to do all of the
out.
Yeah.
And send. So I live by deadlines, submission deadlines, contest deadlines.
Yeah.
For something, because writing is not like this solid thing that you do. Yes, you can have page counts or whatever, like it's just so kind of benign, and it's ideas and it's all of the things or whatever. But when you have a deadline, it's the solid black and white of this is the deadline. You have to have this done by now. Yeah. And that is motivating to me. Again, I'm a structure person. I don't know if it's the military in me or whatever, but it's like the mission needs to be accomplished.
Right.
And it will, no matter what it takes out of you. So I thrive in that, and I need stuff like that too, which is when I miss a deadline. Then I'm like, you know what? Nobody's dying because of this.
But I
we
give
put them
people
on
a heads
ourselves
up,
half the
though.
time.
People in my personal circle, I give them a heads up that, hey, man, this is due Friday at 5 o'clock, so give me some grace on Friday.
So
go find your own supper. Don't be coming
maybe
in
not in that tone.
Yeah. Please go find your own supper. Please put the dog out so he doesn't poop on the floor. I love you. See you at 5:15. Bye.
So that's a great segue into talking about, you know, the people that support us. You know, like we are all in different life cycles right now. Like I still have people at home, and when I put those deadlines on there, how do you communicate to your people to help them support you in it? Because if they don't know that you've set this deadline for yourself, and all of a sudden you become a raging bitch by Thursday night for your 5, you know, it's like, what happened there? And they're not going to understand it. So how do you guys, like you just said, you literally just say, babe, I got a deadline by Friday. You need to be able to fend for yourself. And And I feel like the back end of that is why it's important to you. And if how do you usually say that to your husband? Like, let's give words to people that are going to be talking to anybody from a elementary school child, because that's when you started writing. Like, how did you talk to your elementary school child? Like, we have a deadline. You did 3 books in 3 years. Like, how did you talk to your child about that?
I told her that, the publisher and the editor are excited for our pages. So let's keep writing because they're excited. They're waiting. I didn't want to throw the deadline out there because, middle schoolers and deadlines, they're already,
Right.
I don't want to say, like, we got to get this done by Tuesday.
Yeah.
Because she had her own homework and her own stuff going on. So, but, I just wanted to let her know that there are excited people out there waiting to read what you have to say.
Oh, yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of the word I use for, her. And as she got older and, she was in high school and I'm still trying to crank stuff out, she saw I was engaged with my laptop just as much as she was engaged with her laptop.
Good.
And
So
then
the
my husband,
example of it.
yeah. And then my husband's got his own laptop going on. So, all 3 of us at the same time. And we all just try to have that body clock of, 5:30, hungry. Okay, let's take a break. Let's all
That's good.
eat at me on the kitchen table.
Yeah.
But I try to explain to my husband, because sometimes, it's like, hey, I'm like, you have deadlines all the time.
Yeah.
This is my one thing,
Let
my
me do it.
one deadline.
Yeah.
Let's have some grace for each other.
Nice.
See, like,
how many times have I, have you put in a 12-hour day?
yeah.
This is my 12-hour day.
Well, my husband he's a pilot, and so sometimes he's flying, and I have all the time in the world. Sometimes he's landed, and he'll always say, "Oh, I know. I'm going to leave you alone. I know you want to write." But I love my husband so much. But sometimes he's like a little toddler. He'll be like, I'll be working, and he'll be like, "Hey, Darla, come check out this on this." He loves to follow sailing blogs and motorcycle blogs, and he'll be like, "Oh wait, yeah, I forgot you're writing." I'm like, "Yes, I'm writing." But anyways, I love him so much. But
He's a huge supporter.
he
of you
he wants so much for me. But I love that he's like a kid sometimes. But there's that, and then I have my kids are married and I have grandkids, and so I have more of the like, hey, Mom, can you fly into town to watch my kids for a week? Or Mom, can you? But I always tell them that when they call to schedule my time or to schedule a week at our house, I'm like, yes, unless Hollywood calls and you're all out. I love you, but so they all know that if Hollywood calls, which I'm kidding. But no, they all are so excited. My family is so supportive. I've said that. I think they all are rooting for me.
because you're being a good communicator with them,
Yeah.
and they're seeing how your eyes light up when you talk about a
Yeah.
project, and so engaging with your people is super, super important.
Yep.
If you're trying to do the balance thing, because
Right.
as much as you might be struggling with the balance, they're struggling with balance in their life too.
Yes.
Whatever that may be, like if you look at high school students right now, I'm just in awe of how disciplined so many of these kids are, and also how overwhelming it is. So it's nice to understand that.
Let's talk to the viewer out there that maybe doesn't have a significant other. Maybe they're just the single Pringle.
mother,
Yeah.
They're trying to do their 9 to 5 and write and whatnot. And how do you do that balance as a single person? Well, I would say to you, single person, yay you,
Yes.
yay you for having these dreams and taking the time out to make your writing happen. But to give your mind a break and to get you some exposure to other things, take a break from that laptop, especially if you have a 9 to 5 where you're at the laptop or the computer all day long, and then you come home and you write for another 4 hours. Man, do like you did. Either sit down and watch something, whatever, on Netflix. That's totally a different genre than what you're writing, just to give your mind that pause. Or get the Calm app. Take that 15 minutes to just listen to some waterfalls, or take a yoga class,
That will
or
help
take a
your writing,
walk.
actually.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Because you might not have that extra person in your home to make you that ham sandwich when you want it. Stock up,
Yeah.
stock up, or
I've seen some amazing Twitter threads on writers that are working the 9 to 5, and their weekends they're writing. Like, it's amazing what they what they're doing to be able to create that environment for themselves. Like I've seen these amazing pictures of home offices of, you know what I mean? Like they literally will turn their bedroom into the home office, writing office, and they have stuff that goes up on the weekends and stuff that comes down, you know, during the week, because that space becomes their writing haven. And I think that it's important. I think another thing, especially for families or single people that have full work schedules, taking time to do a retreat or go on a writing fellowship or doing things like us. Like we have had some amazing times doing writer retreats, and sometimes you don't even really get that much writing done, but you have this break from your real life. And I'm adapting something right now that's very much about the importance of an interlude. You know, it's not quit your day job and go try to write in a cabin somewhere. You know, like just take an interlude, because it gives your brain and your creativity this space to breathe. And I
recharge your batteries.
Right. And it will help you balance that out, because you will be rejuvenated and refreshed. Like this also kind of plays right into kind of the last topic that we're going to talk about. And it's all about imposter syndrome. And where we sit with that, because sometimes, like you were talking, feeling so validated in your work career, and then all of a sudden you're like, I just made that huge leap, and now I'm a writer. And then the rejection comes, and you're like, I'm not a writer. I'm not a writer. What did I do? What did I do? So let's talk a little bit about how do you combat that, and what are the things that you're struggling with on that, and you know how can you and the people around you, including your writer friends, help you with that?
So I had a career in HR for almost 20 years, and just last year I just took the huge leap and stepped away from it. And I spent, all of 2021 like, I'm going to crank this out and blah, blah, blah. And I did. I cranked stuff out, but it was scary to go 12 months without a paycheck.
Oh my gosh, it is.
But let me tell you, folks, I prepared for this. I spent all of 2020 socking money away.
That's
so
awesome.
please, 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 if you're going to take the leap and do what I did, buffer your nest so you can have some, you can eat. And all that kind of stuff. Please, please, please plan it out. And I did. I spent 12 months
Especially
planning.
if you have other people that are relying on you.
Yeah. So then, we had a discussion. We met for an afternoon, and you said something that really resonated with me about how can I refill my well? Because my professional job was my well for so long. How can I refill it? And so I got on the old LinkedIn and started looking for paying writing jobs. Because writing is my thing, but I want to get a paycheck. And until Hollywood comes calling, I got to figure out how to get paid to be a writer. And so that's what I did. And so 10 months later, I have a paid writing job. But and anything in life, if there's something you want bad enough, go out there and get it.
Oh, yeah.
Go out there and get it.
Yes. Oh, gosh. For me, imposter syndrome happens daily, weekly. Like last Wednesday, I was riding high, thinking, I just, sent some great responses back to notes from my manager, and I'm thinking they were so inspired. And then I don't hear anything for 3 or 4 days. I'm like, all right, I'm high, and I'm like,
downward spiral.
I know. It's like, what am I doing? I suck at this, and why am I doing this? And for me, for the past few years, my husband and I both, I've been taking some time in the winter to kind of travel to California, stay and sequester and write. And sometimes during that time period, I'm like, why am I leaving this? Why am I away from my husband? And people are like, why are you away from your husband right now? I'm like, and then I am like, why am I doing this? This is stupid. Is my husband gonna have a girlfriend moving in? Which he won't. I got so mean, but not do that. But no, I feel it. I can be riding high, and literally 15 minutes later, I could be crashing with the whole imposter syndrome. And so it's just it's a part of it. And I don't think even people who have made it, we've made it, but people who are industry workers, they go through it too. I mean, they might be writing on a show one season and then unemployed the next, wondering, so I think it's something we all deal with. It's
very much a roller coaster.
It is.
Yes.
buckle up, Buttercup, because you will have it. I don't, unless you have like a ginormous ego, and you probably wouldn't listen to a podcast. Podcast like this if you had a big ego, because you're like, I got it, I'm good. It's just nice to remind yourself that you're not alone in this. Again, we talk a lot about why it's so important to have this community of people, because writing is a solitary thing. It just is. Unless you write with a co-writer, and even then, like I've done that, and it's never like you're both sitting down at the same time discussing what the dialogue line is going to be. No, you're popping it back and forth. You're doing it in a vacuum.
And that brings its own drama. So that brings a whole new fun. So
it does. Yes. It does. So yeah, I just thought it would be really important to talk about that. Even when you feel like you get the balance right, to come back and look at the script that you wrote. Sometimes will really help with the imposter syndrome, because you have this thing. Yes. You made this thing, and it's been validated at some point in time. Right. So remember, you are a writer, even though you might not be physically writing right now, or had met your deadline, or got some kind of contest, accolade or whatever. You are still a writer, and you still have a real life. So that, I feel like, is a really good place where we can kind of end this.
Can I just say that when you're feeling really low and rejected, and I suck as a writer, nobody likes my story, think about what you do have.
Yes.
You have roof over your head, you have maybe a job that you are going to, you have maybe someone that loves you, that shares your life with you. So I always feel I'm successful more than one way.
And that's why it's about, when we're talking about the balance, you want to keep struggling. It's impossible to have, but you want to keep fighting for it.
Right. And fighting for both things.
Yes.
And that just automatically creates conflict, and you just have to figure out the right way to deal with that. And having people, and it's all about relationships. So.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
And I'm so grateful for you guys.
This
is so fun.
I know.
We love each other. Go team!
Yes.
Well, you made it through another episode of Faith, Final Drafts, and the F Word. Thanks for joining in. For more information on our podcasts and videos, be sure and check out our Facebook page with the same title, Faith, Final Drafts, and the F Word. This episode of Faith, Final Drafts, and the F Word was filmed and recorded in Mission Viejo, California.